Okay, week number 5, intermediate Photoshop class. Where is everybody? They're like the last class of of our 5 week class, and they're taking a break. We got more stuff to cover, and then we're going to be leading right into the advanced class later on as well. It'll be after the my Death Valley class. I'm thinking about having it start in May, and maybe late May or so. So just to kind of give everybody a heads up. So, anyways, okay. So homework I've got in front of me. I think the homework assignment was to work on somebody's hair using
Yeah,
some of the brush techniques. That you want to talk about it before I say anything else?
yeah. Well, like I said, like great art, you want to look at it from a distance. Don't get too close. But I just found this picture that I'd taken of a friend. She was playing the organ, and I never noticed until I looked at the picture. Hey, wow, her hair's all messed up. So I thought it might be fun to play with. And I tried adding different layers. And when I got to the top, I ended up just doing everything in one layer. But
It's like you got.
I was going back and forth between dark and light and gray and this and that. And it was a little challenge because there was such a strong light in the room that the front of her hair was kind of blown out.
Yeah,
So I tried.
it's like you got to the top of her hair and you gave up.
Yeah, well, well, if you look at the original, it was
Yeah.
very hard. It was just blown out.
All right, let me take a look at the original real quick. Let's bring it down so we can see all the layers. Alt key while I click on the eyeball.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean you can still recreate that effect. You simply are going to be sampling that particular color,
yeah, yeah,
right? Use your while you're in your brush tool, you hold down your let me see it. While you're in the brush tool, you're going to be holding down your option key, right? And you're going to get
yeah,
that eyedropper there, and you can sample that particular color to paint down there.
yeah.
But let's take a look at what you did real quick. So I'm gonna go to the first layer, and you started adding little.
Actually, wait. Go down to one layer down below. On the
Okay.
copy layer, I started
Oh,
editing
I
without.
see. All right.
Yeah,
So there we go.
yeah. You see
There
the
we go.
back.
So you merged that one together. So you started on that layer, and again, my recommendation is to put your hair on a separate layer.
Yeah.
As I have noticed throughout the class that you had a tendency to kind of not pay attention to what layer you're in.
I, you're absolutely right. I thought I was on the top layer. I did this and redid this many times. So yeah,
Yeah. So you kind of look at the hair flow. I'm going to kind of like turn this off and on. You look at the hair flow. For example, if I get in closer, you can see this little piece here where
right.
it's a little bit darker, which means
Mm-hmm.
you can kind of replicate that effect right across here on this one as well. So
Mm-hmm.
if let me go to my brush tool, and I'm going to go ahead and work on a new layer above yours so that
Okay.
in fact, I'll put this in the very, very, very top, so it's above all the other layers. I'm going to right click and I'm going to go get my hairbrush that we played around with last week. And let's see, what am I going? I think it's that one right there. What I also find is helpful too is brushes like this. Let me click on this one here. Let me see. I'll bring up the brush option so you can see what it looks like. And what it is it's a three dot brush. When you want to
Oh,
control
okay.
individual hair, it's just three dots, right?
Okay.
And then the shape. I've got. Let's see. Do I have angle? I've got rotation involved for the shape.
What's that? I need to load this.
Yeah. So here I'm rotating my walking pen to kind of get this rotating effect. If I go over here and drop this down and turn it off, I'm getting this effect. Right?
Wait.
Now the rotation for you won't be able to use rotation because you got the standard Wacom stylus, right?
Yeah.
The
Well, the pen too. The pen too. I think it's called. Yeah.
Well, that's what the stylus and pen, same thing.
Okay. Okay.
All right,
Okay.
it's the same thing. So here, the only stylus that will work with rotation is the Wacom art pen.
Mm.
All right, and I did share that to you earlier. Let me grab one real quick. I think I've got one here in front of me, but it's the one with the bigger. So if you, I'm going to go ahead and maximize the. I'm going to maximize the screen here real quick so that you can
So
see my.
rotation is under which control? That's under angle jitter. Is that
Yes,
it?
under
Okay.
shape, under the angle jitter, right? So I'm going to.
Oh, you did first. Okay, it was shape and dynamics. Okay.
Right. So
Okay.
this is the art pen. It's a little thicker nub. A little the head is a little bit
Mhm.
thicker, and I think it's like a $60 or $70 price tag on it. You can purchase that. Let's go back to the screen here. All right, so that will apply. Just be aware that will apply rotation. But your pen, your standard stylus with your walking tablet, what you're going to apply instead of rotation, because rotation won't work with it, you're going to do pen tilt. And basically, it's close to the same as rotation, except you're going to be tilting your pen, as you draw, and then you're going to get a little bit of a different effect, just so that you are aware of that. Okay.
Okay.
If this was a retouching class, I can go into that aspect more deeply. But I'm going to go back. I'm going to right click here. I'm going to go back to the one that I wanted to play with yours, which is this one here. And it looks like that's not. Where is my modified version of it? Maybe we'll go up here. Huh.
Yeah, that was something else I needed to with that brush. I needed. It took me several tries until I got it.
Yep.
Close up was working.
All right.
Dots were too big or too many or whatever. Yeah.
All right. So my brush right now. Let's see here. I'm trying to. There we go.
Steve, can I ask you a
Yeah.
question?
Yeah.
If you look on your screen where it shows what the brush is going to look like, you see how there's like little dots along each strand.
Yes.
I couldn't get rid of that, but yet
Well,
it's
yes,
happening.
yes,
Come up.
yes.
What is that?
Yes, you can. Under
Okay.
the brush tip shape right up here, it's your
Oh.
spacing, and you bring it closer,
Oh.
right?
Oh. Okay.
Right. It's your spacing.
Okay.
Now I'm going to apply transfer to mine as well. There we go. So I have the light. So I'm applying my pressure. Right. I'm also going to make another adjustment here because what I did was I reset my walking pen before class, so I lost all my adjustments for this. So I'm going to
Oh.
come up over here, go to my walking pen tablet. So it'll just be like a little bit of a review for you.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna go over here and grab Photoshop. All right. Photoshop
Hmm.
is my. I like mine to be a little bit more firm. Right click is my bottom click by default. That's good. I want this one in the middle one to be for my brush resize. So I'll go to my keyboard. I'll go to modifier, and this is going to be my Alt for on the left and right side of the keyboard, and the right click. There we go. And then toggle display. Now this is the pen I like to use. This one has 3
Mm.
buttons on it. Yours will only
Yeah.
have 2. So what you do is you set your top button for your brush resize. I set my middle button for brush resize.
Mm.
Okay, that's just my choice. And the bottom I keep a right click.
Okay.
Always. So if I have the right click here to get my brush panel, and I have my middle button to resize my brush like so. And keep in mind that your custom brushes don't give you that colored overlay. All right, so if I get in
Oh,
close,
that's why. Oh, okay. That was one question I had. Okay.
that's
Got
right.
it.
That's right. Your
Yeah.
custom brushes don't give you the overlay. Your standard circular brushes will. That's in Photoshop. So if I right
Okay.
click here, this standard circular brush here, if
Yeah.
I select it, that will give you the overlay.
Yes. Oh, yes. Okay. You see, that was one of my questions. Good. Good. Good.
All right.
Okay.
So if I go to my custom brush,
Yeah.
oops. See what happened was I forgot to save the brush, so it went back to the other settings. So I got to go back and target transfer, go back to my brush tip shape, adjust my spacing. Okay.
Mhm.
And I think this one, I think you know what, I could go ahead to my shape dynamics and apply my let's go over to the angle here. And because I'm not using my art pen as my standard stylus, I'm going to set this one for pen tilt. And I may not really need to do that. I have so many dots on here. I don't really need to set this for rotation. So I tell you, I'm gonna keep that off. I'm gonna keep it off just for the control purposes. All right, now I have to go right up here to this menu, the hamburger menu, new brush preset. Call it what you want. Capture brush size. I'm gonna keep the include tool settings off, so this brush is available for all of my tools in Photoshop. So I'm gonna click OK. Okay, all right, here we go. So I'm looking at just paying attention to strands here. So I'm going to turn, as you can see there. You could probably just, I'm thinking like, you know what, you might want to just consider sampling this. Alt click sample this, and and kind of add some little more richness in some of these areas.
Oh, to fill it in. Okay.
Yeah, right. Because you see these little areas where you have little dark strands in here.
Yeah.
You might want to kind of keep that repetition going here.
Okay.
All right. Kind of pay attention. Go to some areas and bring them on in there so that. I think will work better for this one too. If I right click, I'm going to go get that 3-brush technique thing, right there.
Okay.
There we go. By bringing that down, see my little 3 brushes in there. So,
yeah.
See, now I've got more control. And I'll bring it down a little bit smaller. All right, maybe some areas have that little thickness coming through. All right, there. Kind of keep that theme going, paying attention to how her hair is clumping together. Is that making sense?
Yeah.
Right, up in here, they're kind of clumping up in these little areas, and just it's just watching what the hair is doing in particular areas, so that will help with the realism.
Mm-hmm.
Right, you can see how it's clumping up down in here. I think I'll probably bring this on through here. Yeah, I think you get the point. So if I turn on the other ones, let's go to the next one there. Now you're adding a little bit of the highlights, which is not bad. You get just
That's probably the best compliment I'll ever get as an artist. Not bad.
Well, but if you look at your strokes are too long, right?
Oh, are they?
If you actually look at her hair, the strokes are very different, and they're also moving in different directions. Mm-hmm. Right. So if I go back to mine up here, and I think what I'll do is I'll go sample. Go to hit the Alt key, sample the brighter portions in here. Right. You want to pay attention to what the hair is doing. The strokes in her hair are short, and this goes up this way. This one goes down this way. This one's coming down toward here. Another one's coming up over this way. They're not all flowing in the same direction. Here's another one that's going almost like horizontal right up here. Mm-hmm. Right?
Yeah.
And then if you want to increase the reflections in her hair, adding your own little 2 cents to it, that's where you add an additional layer. We'll call this one we'll call this one highlights. But specular highlights, I should say. So that's like specular. Let's see. Go back. Spec highlights. We'll just put spec lights just for short. That's where you change your blend mode to screen. Right? And you can start to, like, some of these other areas a little bit brighter than others, a little little thick portions of the strands are a little bit brighter than others. And you can even see it on her hair. But remember, your sensor, when it's capturing your data, is flattening out your image, right? So your job as an artist is to bring back that depth. And this brush would be good for up here. So if I sample these highlights here and print while in the screen blend mode, see, it's gonna, I sampled that color, so it takes that color and adds brightness. So you look at the strands, and it really is a patient person's game. But if you're patient at first, you get faster and faster and faster. Right, you follow the hair, follow what it does. Oops. Command 0 and bring it in. See, so we're starting to slowly recreate her hair so that it looks believable. All right, so even as I turn it on and off, I'm seeing I can probably still add a few more highlights. Highlights up in these areas in here. If I want to add some additional strands, kind of like my little personal interpretation.
Yeah.
Just make it reflect that of what the hair is doing. Then if someone looks at this, they're not going to be able to easily tell that you've got something like that. Yeah, you see what you're doing here?
Yeah, big
right?
difference.
Big long strokes. So this is really just you being impatient.
Yeah.
Right? Just take your time and watch what the hair does. Right?
Yeah.
If I go back to the normal layer and I'm going to go ahead and sample these colors down in here, I can start to add a little more hair up in here. Remember, just paying attention to what the hair is doing. It's short strokes.
Okay.
Right? I'll go back and get my brush here. I'm gonna go grab that one there. There we go. All right, it's short strokes. Let me go get that. There we go. Sample that there. A little bit too thick. All right. And just fill it in with those short strokes. All right. So I'm not going to spend much more time on this, but you get the idea.
I definitely. It's great.
All right. So
That's way better.
if you get a client that gives you, like, let's take a look at what your other, like, you got that there, as you're trying to fill in the top, which is fine. That's fine if that's what you want to do. But follow the hair. Gosh darn it, I keep doing that. So I'm accidentally pushing. See, I'm making modifications to my brush and forgetting to save it.
Mm.
So if I want to bring this down smaller, now I can right click and save that. And then I can always get the smaller brush size, right? You resize your brush. You can, right? If you want to do this, but keep them those little short strokes, and utilize the pressure of the pen to taper off the edges. And then don't forget you got this brownish hair here that you're going to introduce in here too. So it's just just taking your time.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. So what I want to do is I want to kind of continue to address this retouching approach, and I think your picture is perfect for this exercise coming up.
Okay.
And it's called the frequency separation technique.
Okay.
And what we're going to do is we're going to remove a lot of those blemishes from her face.
Okay.
Okay. Now, what you could do is, of course, what most people might do is, in fact, I'm gonna remove all these hair layers, and I'm gonna just get rid of everything and just go with the original layer.
Okay.
I'm gonna make a new layer on top, and one technique you can use is the spot healing brush, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, which I think you're very familiar with. So if I right
Oh,
click
yeah.
with the spot healing brush, um, I'm going to just kind of resize. I can. It's going to give you a standard circular brush using the spot healing brush, and of course I can resize this. It's set to my pen, my Wacom pen. Go back to the other videos if you forget how to set
Yeah.
your pen to your button. I'm using my top button. Getting close. Now what you could do is with the spot healing brush, what it's doing is sampling all the areas around the area that you want to correct. Right? So if I go to the spot healing brush, and here's the key. When you want to use a new layer to put the technique in, you have to make sure on your options bar, sample all layers is selected.
Mm.
Right?
Right.
So if I go to her face and click and draw, you get a little black spot over it, right? But when you release it, look what happens. It rids itself of the black spot, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And that's legit. That's a legitimate way of tackling a lot of these spots. But what if we want to alter the skin another way? In other words, what if we want to alter, make her look younger, get rid of the wrinkles, get rid of the splotches on her face quickly? There's an advanced way of doing it called frequency separation technique. And the way that it works is you're going to separate your detail completely from your color. You have two. You're gonna create two separate layers. One that only has your detail in it, and another layer that only has your color in it. Okay, I was just using this as an example, so I'm going to delete this layer temporarily, or just delete it completely. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to duplicate my layer twice. All right, one layer. The first duplicated layer, I'm going to call this one color. The second, the other duplicated layer, I'm going to call this one frequency.
And does it matter which one's on top?
Yes.
Okay, so frequency on top. Okay.
You want the detail and the texture on top.
Okay, got it.
All right, so what I would like you to do is to get to this point using this same image.
Okay.
Since you're the only one here,
Yeah.
we'll work with your image. And I'll
Okay.
pause recording temporarily.
Okay.
All right, now what I'd like you to do next is turn off the frequency layer
Got it.
and target your color layer.
Okay.
All right, now this is what you want to do. This layer, we're going to eliminate the frequency. Think of frequency as details.
Okay.
Sharpness and edgy details like her eyelashes and her hair and the wrinkles in her face and all that stuff, okay?
Mm-hmm.
We're going to eliminate the frequency. We're going to eliminate the detail to maintain only color. In essence, we want to create the palette of our image, like a painting palette.
Mm-hmm.
What I'm going to do is this. To accomplish that, and then once again, I'm recording this, so you don't need to write this down.
Yeah. Okay.
To accomplish that, I'm going to go over to Filter, Blur, Gaussian Blur.
You
Okay.
want me to do this? Follow along with it?
I want you to watch me first, and
Okay.
then I'm going to
Okay.
have you do it. Okay.
Okay.
All right. So I have Gaussian blur, and it's just a slight blur like this. It's eliminating the detail, but maintaining our color. I've got
Okay.
2.3. That means somewhere thereabouts. Doesn't have to be exactly like mine, but go on and get yours close to what I've got. All right. So next, pull this on over here, and I accidentally dragged this over. There we go. So next, what we're going to do is we're going to go to the frequency and turn it back on again.
Okay.
So turn it, but target that layer and turn it on.
Mm-hmm.
And we're going to apply a technique where we're going to eliminate all the color and leave only the detail.
Okay.
Okay? The way we're going to accomplish that is going to be through your image menu. I'm going to go to image and just watch me first, and I'm going to let you do it next.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to go to image.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to go to apply image.
Mm-hmm.
So, what apply image does is allowing you to apply a blend mode or a blend from some other image somewhere else onto the one that we have selected. What we're going to do is we're going to apply what we see to the layer that we have selected. By default, it's using a blend mode of multiply. Under blending, if I drop it down, you have all your blend modes here.
Right.
So I'm applying the layer of itself
Mm-hmm.
using a blend mode of multiply, color burn, lighter, screen, overlay, whichever one that I choose.
Mm-hmm.
All right, I'm going to go to normal so that we see it normally.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so the goal here is to pick a blend mode that's going to eliminate the color. So what I want to do is I want to subtract out the color out of this layer, leaving only the details. All right, where is the color? What layer is the color in? It's not a trick question.
Well, I see we created a color layer.
That's right. Well, that's where the color is, right?
Yeah. Okay.
All right, that's our color. That's why we called it color.
Okay.
Okay.
You're going to subtract.
Right. But you're trying to do a mathematical equation in your head. I can see your brain turning. Stop complicating it.
Okay.
That's your color layer. That's why we call it color. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to take the color out of the frequency. We're going to subtract it out, leaving only the details. So the blend mode that we're going to choose, dropping this down, is one that you've never used before. It's called subtract.
Got it.
So we're going to subtract something. How are we going to subtract it? Number one, your scale has to be 2. I'm assuming that's because there's 2 variables in pixels, ones and zeros, 1 or 0. And the offset's going to be 128. The 128 represents the gray that this is going to become. So this 128, if I go to 0, it goes to black. If I go to 255 from your beginning class, it goes to white, right? Medium gray is dead center. Well, we go to 128. Okay. Now, right now, what we've done is we use what we see is what we get, the merge layer. We're subtracting it out of the frequency layer, which means we're taking itself and subtracting itself from it. Therefore, we're getting, I think I accidentally drew up in here. It was an X. That was weird. Therefore, we're getting medium gray everywhere. What we want is not to subtract everything from itself. Whenever you take color out, all you have left is what? Values, right?
Mm-hmm.
All right, which is what we've got left. We told it to be the value of 128. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
All right, so we subtracted the color, making it a value of 128, which means your details are gone because we told it to subtract from itself. Well, we don't want to subtract from itself. We want us to subtract what? The color layer.
Oh, okay.
We select the color out, and it leaves you the details.
Wow. Wow. Very cool.
Okay, I'm going to click OK. All right, so there are my details.
Mm.
So what I'm going to do is now I need to tell it to get rid of the medium gray. Let the medium gray go away. Well, we have a layer blend mode for that. Instead of normal, we go down here to make the medium grays go away. We want what's called linear light.
It's like magic.
All right? So in other words, if I hold the option key and click on the eyeball of this layer, before and after, that layer had a transparency in it. That's why it's doing this up here. Before and after, it's exactly the same. There's no difference. But it's not exactly the same, because if I turn off the frequency, all you see is the color.
Yeah.
And if we turn off the color, all we see is the frequency. I turned off the other two layers beneath it. If I turn this back on, right? Frequency only, color only. We've separated them. All right, now how is this beneficial to you? All right, let's look at her face. We're gonna make her a little bit more lively. We're gonna get rid of some of these blemishes here. Okay. And what you're gonna do is I'm gonna put a layer in between the two of them. And we're gonna.
How did you do that one step? How did you do that?
I just clicked the new layer button.
Oh, but how did you get it right where it was instead of on top?
Well, where does Photoshop put a layer naturally?
On top, no?
There we go. So which layer did I have selected?
Oh, because you had color selected. Okay, got it.
All right. Okay. See, you're not watching your layers.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
All right. Watch those layers. So here we go. So I'm going to call this one the paint layer. Okay. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit the B key for the brush. I'm going to select the soft edge brush right there. We're back to our good old soft edge brush, and I can resize this whatever I want. Now, I want to get rid of some of these blemishes. Now, I'm looking at some of these blemishes on the front of her cheek. I'll start there.
Okay.
And what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, take away the blemish color, the darker blemish color, and replace it with this color over here. Maybe I go to a little bit brighter color. And then when I start to paint, see, the texture is not being touched. Only the color. I'm going to sample this color here. And I'm going to start to continue to paint over these areas. Sample. I'm just sampling the color. All right, so basically I'm doing this.
You're at full opacity? Okay.
Well, that's a silly question.
Oh, no, with your
I'm using my walking pen, buddy.
Right. So
I got pressure, so I'm painting very lightly at first.
Lightly, okay.
Pressing down very lightly, very lightly. See? Very lightly. I'm gonna make a little bit bigger brush. And I'm changing the lighting. All right. So these wrinkles underneath their eyes, I'm going to make the brush smaller to match kind of that area. Sample the brighter area because I want to look like this fullness under her eye. And I start to paint. And it removes those wrinkles. It's changing the lighting. All right, sample this lighting here. And I'm just pressing light with the walking pen. And the more I brush over it, it builds up with it. It builds it up. So, before, after, before, after. So down in here, I'm going to sample this brighter area here and start to pull up these areas along her cheeks. Starting to look younger.
Yeah.
We're pulling out those pits. Bring this up a little bit. Give it some fullness. Looking at how the lighting's hitting. So we're literally changing the light. So if I brush this across here, there we go. Just gently. All right? The detail is never touched.
Okay.
But the color is what you're changing. And that's what you're going to try next.
Okay.
Okay? All right, I'm going to pause it and help you out.
Okay.
Okay, so we did some basic, just some basic touch up here. Okay? Now, remember, this technique is excellent for altering the lighting. So we got this bright light hitting the side of her face. And really, I'm thinking I wanted to give it the feeling that it's casting a little bit of a rim light across the profile of the front of her face. Does that make sense? Okay. So I'm going to mimic that effect using this technique. So if I come right over here, just outside of her face here, and I'm going to kind of zoom in closer, and hit the B key for the brush, Option key, grab that. You can see my foreground has become that bright area. And I'm going to just resize this brush. I'm going to start to simulate how this might look. Now, if I want to, I can add another layer and put this technique in a new layer. All right? And I'm going to call this one Rim Light. And the rim lights only go on this layer. So I'm going to come over here. I'm going to start over here. Just kind of get my imagination going. Look at these highlights. I'm going to paint it in a little bit. See how it's brightening up here? All right. I'm going to brighten that up there. That's a little too much. I'm going to start to brighten up these other areas behind it to make it look like the lighting is spilling off a little bit. Right on the tip of that nose a little bit, might be a little brighter. Right down in here, I'm going to go ahead and sample. It's getting closer. I'm going to sample this brighter area here. and use that. Sample this brighter area here. Use that across your lips there. And I think I will also use it across the, because this is a little brighter here, across the nostrils. So I'm using that natural, oops, let me do that. That natural coloration. That nose is horrible, by the way. So if I think it's horrible, hit the E key for the eraser tool. Right click, go get my soft edge brush for the eraser tool, bring it down, and I can erase away so it blends in better. Kind of soften up those edges. Right. So now I'll come back, hit the B key for the brush. I will go back and Alt sample this brighter area here. Let's see if I can bring a little bit of that rim lighting right in there. Right in there. Right, and it's gonna hit her cheeks too. But her cheeks are wider. So it's a bigger.
It's like red lighting, isn't it?
Right, right. So I'm gonna just gently touch across here, just gently. And then across her chin. See? Bring that lighting right across there. Looks a little funny there, but and it's probably going to hit the rest of her face in here. Alright, so her nose is a little bit messed up, so I'll hit the E key for the eraser tool again, and I'm going to erase away so I can bring back the contour of the nose. I need to keep that rounded shape in there. I need to keep this shadow in here. Just where just behind the nose, and then keep the highlights over these rounded edges of the eyes here. Okay, so now I'm going to turn this layer off, before and after.
Wow.
Before and after. So we're changing the motif, changing the lighting here. Now, if you really want to, want the rest of her face to go richer and darker, you can do that by sampling a darker area of her skin and bringing it back in. But we'll work on another image for that one. Practice on this a little bit more, what I just shared with you, and then we'll go to another image.
Okay, so.
All right, so to make your highlights more believable, I'm adding a new layer, and I think I'm going to call this one Speck Light. This new layer, I'm going to change the blend mode to color dodge. Okay, so from normal, I'm changing it to color dodge. What color dodge does is it really accentuates the light. I mean heavily, which will help simulate what real light does. So I'm taking my brush, Alt, I'm going to click on the brighter colors of her forehead, probably something like this, and then I'm going to gently start to bring those up. Right? Just gentle touches at first. Bring it across, do this a little bit over here on the nose. Oops, too much. Gonna back off a little bit. Alright, if I sample down here again, the brighter areas, and then just brush on top. Same thing down over in here. I'm going to make this a little bit bigger and just hit underneath that cheek just a little bit. Right in there, something like this. And again, you always have your layer opacity as well If you want to bring it down a little bit,
Yeah.
right, you can play with that. Try that as an additional step.
Okay. Steve, on the rim light, what was the blend mode?
All right, let's go to another image. Let's use what we've learned on to this one. Somebody with darker complexion and skin, and what you're going to discover is it doesn't really matter. I've got my original layer. I'm going to duplicate it twice. So Command J and Command J. Let's turn off this top one temporarily. We're going to call the bottom one color. And we're going to call the top one frequency or texture. Your choice.
Okay.
Just watch me for now. Now I'll let you do it next.
Okay.
I'm going to go to the color layer and go to my filter, blur, Gaussian blur. Okay. And I'm going to blur the skin a little bit more this time. So I'm just getting, all I'm getting is color. I've just deleted out the texture, the details.
Okay.
On this one, I want to keep the texture and take out the color. So image menu, apply the image, under subtract, and then it keeps the same one that same settings I had from the last image I was using. Under subtract, and what do we want to subtract out? Not the merge, because everything will be completely gray,
Color,
right?
yeah.
So I want to subtract out the color, and there's my kind of like a little relief. So to speak. Now, all we need to do now, once that's done, is to get rid of the gray, and we're applying a blend mode of linear light. So I'm going to turn off the bottom one. So if I turn off the bottom, there's my texture. If I turn off the top, there's my color. Is that making sense?
Yeah.
All right. So now I'm going to put a new layer in between the color. We're going to call this one a paint layer. Okay. And in that layer, we're going to start making some modifications. So I'm thinking I'll start down here underneath his eye. I'm going to sample this brighter color, and I'm using that skin tone. In fact, I might even go over here. Let me see if this is even brighter. Yeah, something like this. And as I start to paint on in here, it starts to eliminate those darker values.
Yeah.
Which in essence is starting to eliminate some of those wrinkles.
Right.
Okay. And sample this color here. Pull this on out. Okay, if I sample here as well, I'm going to start to pull these areas out. I'm adjusting my brush size as I need it.
Right.
Pull these areas out in here. Bring that on up. Starting to look younger, right?
Yeah.
Sample the brighter area in the cheeks in here. And pull some of that. Alright, I'm going to sample the brighter areas up here.
How did anybody ever discover this?
I don't know. Good question. See this brighter area here, which is kind of blue. If I sample this reddish area over here, I can replace that with the reddish skin tone.
Yeah.
All right, I'm just doing one side of his face, but you're starting to see the results already. So if I come over to here, sample some of these brighter areas like this. See how I'm starting to alter the feeling and the theme of the piece. Okay, so before, after, before, after. And you're never touching that texture.
Yeah.
Which is the beauty. We're never touching the texture. We're only touching the color. Come down over here to this side of his cheek. I'm going to alter this. Start to give him some youthfulness back in here. Get in close. Work in close. Stop working far away like you're doing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Here, see, this is gonna take away that wrinkle in there. I'm taking that color and bringing it back over into this side of his face, adding some color back to his cheeks instead of age. All right. So before, after, before, after. So we're altering the light. I'm still using that same color, and I'm going to bring it back up through here. See?
Was this one of your pictures or a stock image?
I don't know. This is not one of mine. It's somebody, I think it's another student's.
Oh, okay.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah. No, I was just curious. Just curious. Yeah.
Doesn't matter. So,
Yeah.
before, after, see?
Mm.
Before,
Mm.
after. So if we start to head over to the forehead, right? We're going to sample the brighter tones, and we're going to pull this on out. Up here is this little bluish area, which is the fault of the photographer. Probably lens
Yeah.
flare. So
Lens
go.
flare,
So
it looks like a rainbow almost,
yeah, go get some of this reddish area. Broaden the brush. Take it out.
Oh,
We're
yes.
altering the color. Altering the color. Go get some of this brighter area here and brush it on top of that. There we go. Looks more natural. Sample this here. I want to keep some of the shadow there on the side to make it look like the kind of match my lighting. But you can see already before, after, before, and after. All right, now isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
And of course, the hair. If you want to repair the hair, you're going to use your hair brushes to do that. We'll focus on that in a little bit. But I'm gonna pause the recording, so go ahead and work on yours.
Okay.
Oh, go back to resume. So, all right, what was I going to show you? There we go. Now, let me. There we go. Let's kind of get in a little bit closer here. Now, looking in the eyes in here, we can. It's the same process. And you look, his eyes are muddy. They're not white. There's no whites in there. They're kind of muddy. And we can use the same technique for the eyeballs. So if I just go in here and grab the brightest, I don't even like that bright. I'm thinking probably something. I'm using my portrait as a palette, like a painter palette, right? I'm using the palette, kind of sampling around and see maybe that right there could work, right? And I'm going to just bring the brush size down, and I'm going to gently start to bring that out. So all I'm doing is I'm replacing the color. This is in normal blend mode. I'm replacing the color. Oops, see now that was too hard. That was my fault. Okay, so gently touch, and I'm replacing that with some nice whites. Definitely some highlights in here. Tap a little harder in here to go a little whiter. They get the specular highlights in there. But gently bring this up. I think I'm going to sample this brighter skin area here, just to kind of bring this area up a little bit underneath the eye. Okay, now to add the contrast, I think I want a richer black. So I'm going to take a chance. I'm going to go hit Alt click and go right deep here in the black areas like this, and just for the iris in here, I think that's called, I'm going to paint in richer, deeper black. That's going to really help this stand out. If you pull it back, see, so before, after, after. All right.
Wow.
All right. So work on your eye next. I'll pause recording.
Okay.
Okay, so that kind of gave you a little whet your appetite on ways to the handle the eye area in there. Now these little extra blemishes, that's probably a good idea. I like to put a new layer above everything, and this
Okay.
is where I would use my spot healing brush tool.
Mm-hmm.
And little things like this, I can easily just get rid
Yeah.
of that way.
Yeah.
All right.
And again, you guys sample all layers. Okay, good.
Yeah, sample all layers. And this is going to be a
Good.
fast process, right?
Right.
All right. I'm going to just, look at the blemish. Photoshop is looking at all the areas around the skin and using that skin to sample to replace the areas that are in black. So as I press down the pen, it goes to black. That's the area that I'm actually choosing to replace. All right. So now we're getting to the wrinkles here. We want to eliminate the wrinkles. I'm going to flow with the wrinkles, right? I'm flowing with the wrinkles. It becomes a very fast process.
Yeah.
Okay? And if I turn that layer off before after, getting a little closer. Before after, before after. So
Yeah.
this is a nice little way to nice little retouching technique. You want to use the two in combination. So use as much of your frequency separation as possible, and then this will get the small little stuff. Like even up here in this, if you wanted to attempt to pull out some of the wrinkles up here in his head, all right, they give him a very youthful look.
Yeah.
All right. See how quick I'm going?
Yeah.
So I'm used to the stylus.
Right.
When you get
right.
used to the stylus, and when you're zoomed in close, there's no guessing of where you're going to be sampling. You can see everything. I'm only doing half the face so that we can compare it to the other side.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
See. So before, after, right? So that way you're keeping some of the texture in there. You don't want to limit. You don't want it looking like plasticky looking. You want to
Right.
keep some of the texture in there. Now the hair, and again, you're just using your head here. Make a new layer for hair. If you wanted to play with the hair, for instance. So what I'll do is I'll grab a brush. The brush that I like, I'm gonna go to the paintbrush. Hit the B key for my paintbrush. Right click with the bottom click of my stylus, and I've got this little brush right there that I like to use. And I'm this brush here. I'm gonna go to the brush settings, and for the shape dynamic, I have rotation. I'm gonna select pin tilt, so I can utilize my tilt to affect some change. Let's see, pin tilt. Is it going to work with this one? Interesting. Saying it's going to have a problem working with this one. I'm not quite sure why. All right, so I'm going to go to new brush preset because I've made a change. So that brush will always be, let's go over here, the very last brush right down here. Okay. All right, so if I'm going to resize a little bit. Now, I could sample the color and paint it in, or I can go to my stamp tool, go grab that brush right down here, and I can sample areas of his hair here, and then bring it on down. So I need to be careful how I paint, because I don't want to I don't want it to look unusual.
So what you do? You're trying to fill his hair in right now.
Yeah. If I'm saying,
Oh,
but
I thought you were gonna dye it black. Okay, got it. Okay.
So click here. I'm gonna sample some of the texture, and I'm just gonna keep that same. See, keep
So
those
you're in the
same.
stamp tool right now. Okay.
I'm in a stamp tool.
Oh, okay, got it.
I'm keeping those same strokes. So I got some linear strokes here. Come back and say maybe I'll grab some of. I'll grab some of this over here, and then. Right. I have to resample all the time. Remember, your hair isn't going in one direction. Every little strand's going in different directions.
Right.
So maybe I'll sample over here, get some of this white. Now I'll paint this way, right?
Mm.
And then some areas are going to be doing this. See, what gives your hair away, or your paint stroke away, is when you're painting one direction all the time. Like, in other words, like this. Everything looks like that. That makes it obvious.
Mm.
Right? That's not what hair does. So, before, after, before, after. Is that making a little bit of sense?
Yeah.
All right. So, I'm going to go over here, sample some of this hair, and maybe short little strokes. Match what the hair does. And if I sample this area here, if I start to paint, you get to see that little plus sign where it's located.
Yeah.
That's the area that is sampling. So you can use your existing hair to maintain the look and feel. It looks obvious what I did here, but as you start to work, you start to fill this in, and just keep working more, it all starts to blend in pretty well. And you might even, I might even consider, let's see if let me get in close here. Okay. See, my hair is real sharp looking compared to the photograph, because you see that there?
Yeah.
All right. So you might want to add just a tiny little bit of a Gaussian blur. Filter, blur, Gaussian. Not that much. Just a tiny bit so it blends in with the other hair.
Mm.
All right. So it looks more natural. You can't tell that you painted it in there.
Right.
All right. So give that a try.
Okay. Okay, so new layer on that layer was on the very top, wasn't it?
Yep. I'm going to show you here. So keep in mind that the brush that I'm using is one. Let me hit my B key for my brushes here. It's one that I created. It's 3 brushes. Let me make a new little palette here. Make it easier for you to see. Go to my 5" by 5". There we go. New layer, Command A for my Etch-a-Sketch, and if I paint, that's kind of what I'm doing. So I'm in the hit the B key for brushes. Right click, and this is a custom brush once again that I created. Let's see if I can go a little bit bigger. There we go. If I tap, that's basically what it is. But you want to know when you make yours really real dark like that.
Yeah. Okay. So I need to do a new file.
Yeah, new file. Just make sure it's white behind it so that when you select it,
Yeah.
Photoshop's going to select those black dots as a brush.
Right. Okay.
So hopefully, let me go ahead and I'm going to share my screen back again. So hopefully, this has been very, very helpful.
Yes.
And if it hasn't, tell me it hasn't been, or maybe it's something that you wanted to work on, you would have liked to have seen. Just send me suggestions. I'm always open to it. And I'm going to be starting the advanced class in the future. We'd love to see you all there, but if you can't make it, I totally understand. And I'll keep you informed about the future workshops that are coming out. Right now, I'm going to start promoting the The May workshop for the Central Coast workshop
Mm.
will be based in Santa Cruz.
Oh, Santa
So
Cruz. Okay.
yeah, that'll be fun. That'll be a lot of fun. So hopefully we'll love to see you there. But I'll get the recording done today and get it out to everybody. All right, I'm going to